23, we are scheduled for 30 minutes earlier than normal at 6:30 as it's part of a joint meeting with the Bellingham Housing Authority. As is our practice, I'd ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just for clarity, as we were talking before the meeting, it was noted that we technically do not have a requirement to include the Board of Health in this meeting, as we have passed the window by which a joint meeting would be occurring. Housing, sorry. Housing, sorry. But where we have members in attendance, the question is whether you want to open up your meeting or just let this go forward with the Bellingham Select Board.
If you want to, I say go forward at the meeting.
Inclusive of the Housing Authority?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so who would be chairing your committee?
As of tonight? Chris.
Chris isn't a member.
All right, that knows you, all right, I'll chair the meeting.
Okay, so you are opening the Housing Authority, Ronald Paulus.
Yes.
Okay. By way of background, there was a error that occurred in the Bellingham Town Clerk's office by which candidate was not listed at the May election. Clarity, I believe it's 45 days after it is realized. A joint meeting would occur.
30 days.
30 days?
Yeah.
And then absent that, if a joint meeting does not occur, then the appointment of an individual to the Housing Authority would fall to the Bellingham Select Board. And just for clarity for anyone tuning in, our jurisdiction is solely to the 3 elected members in this situation, as the governor has rights to appoint 1 individual, and the board, the Bellingham Select Board has rights to appoint 1 member from the Housing Authority.
1 resident.
Resident appointment. Thank you very much. That being the case, as of August 8th, 1 individual had signed up for consideration, Mr. Remillard, and no other candidates have come forward since. So with that, I would ask the Housing Authority to ask if there's any questions of Mr. Remillard before a motion would be made. Do you have any questions from the Housing Authority?
Any questions? I have none.
None? Any questions from the Bellingham Select Board? Okay.
Nope, I thank Chris for putting his name on here again.
I think from an appropriateness standpoint, the nomination should come from the Housing Authority, and if you don't make that nomination, then it would fall to the Bellingham Select Board. Would you like to make that motion?
That we hire, we don't hire, but we appoint Chris from our.
All right,
I'll
there's
second the motion.
second, there's first and second. In this case, it would be all of us. Right, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Hillary, just for the minutes, if we could reflect that 4 members of the Bellingham Select Board were in attendance, 2 of the 4 members of the Housing Authority.
And just so we have it in the minutes, we have just appointed Mr. Remillard to finish out this term,
Yes,
to be up for election again in 2024. The other seat that is up for election in 2024 is Mrs. Cartier's seat, as she was elected in 2019 to a 5-year term.
so noted. Okay. Congratulations, welcome back. That's pretty straightforward. As our meeting will continue, I believe you need to make a motion to adjourn the Bellingham Housing Authority.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
First and second, and all those in favor, I assume is 2-0.
Aye.
2 being a majority of your board, 2, so that's.
I can vote on that, all right? I read 3-0. Aye.
Yep.
Okay. I'll come back, Chris.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, so we are ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I think we need to,
What's that?
probably, don't you think we should pause until 7? Yeah, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah, I do, I mean,
It's not even close.
yeah,
But our meeting doesn't indicate that ours would start at 7, it's just what we want.
yeah, but,
Can we shift things around?
I defer to you.
I would feel more comfortable.
I think we should wait only because we have, Rick on the agenda for 7 and then the fire chief right after. I don't know, I just, unless there's a few things, housekeeping items you wanna do, like, minutes, abatements,
Because Betsy's not even gonna come on until like 7:15 for the
Yeah.
acquisitions.
yeah.
That being the case, can we mute ABMI and mute Zoom?
Yeah.
We would have beaten back, okay, that's what we want, we could have beaten back. But I don't know. Yeah, it's good, it's like. No, we probably get.
Put on the cable.
Is Zoom back up?
Okay.
Only this way. So I brought it up with the operating.
How is it news? There's no council on, so there's no one. There's no one.
Recorded.
Huh?
Recorded.
That's true.
All right, the time is 7 o'clock, and for anyone that is tuning back in or watching this at a later time, we had a 6:30 joint meeting with the Bellingham Housing Authority. We adjourned at the conclusion of that business and are resuming at 7 o'clock with the continuation of our agenda. We have a Board of Health interview with Rick Gilberti.
Gilberti.
Gilberti, thank you for the correction. If you'd like to join us at the table. Much, yeah, if you want to. And maybe you could tell a little bit about your background, your interest at this time, and anything else you'd like to add.
Hi, my name is Rick Gilberti. I'm a retired Somerville police officer. I spent 39 years as a police officer in Somerville. I've been a resident of Bellingham for now 33 years. My wife went through the Bellingham school system, graduated Bellingham High in 1975. My mother-in-law bought the model house in Weathersfield back in 1961, so our family has deep roots in Bellingham. As a police officer, I had many functions in my years. For 13 years, I ran the Emergency Operations Center for the city of Somerville. I know how to deal with government agencies. I know how to deal with the public. I want to give something back to the town. I've been retired now for it's going on 6 years. I've done everything I can do for the to-do list, and now I just want something to do when I want to help the town.
Okay. Questions on the board? Anyone like to start?
I don't have any questions. You came highly recommended from the board, and I appreciate your interest in this position. It's always nice to have residents come forward and want to give back their time.
My question would be, given that there may be other boards, why did you choose the Board of Health over perhaps like FinCom or something?
I saw a posting on Facebook on that Bellingham 300 site, and they said they were desperate for members. People weren't volunteering.
Yep.
And I said, well, let me give it a try.
Yep.
I really didn't look at other boards. I didn't, it was kind of like a spur of the moment. I said, something, I think I could do that, and I think I'd be good at it.
Yep. How does someone commute from Bellingham to Somerville for 30 years?
It wasn't an easy commute. I did it, this is the way I explain it as best I can. I bought brand new Hyundais I rode them for 250,000 miles, I threw them away, and I bought another Hyundai. And I did that for 33 years. My other problem was, I worked the day shift for about 25 years. And I used to go in at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'd miss most of the traffic. The problem is my last year, 2017, traffic was even worse at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I never could figure out why people on the Mass Pike would be on their phone at 5 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't it wait till you got where you were going? I didn't realize how bad the drive was killing me.
Yeah.
So, I don't miss the drive.
Yeah. Well, I can appreciate that. I too married someone who went through the Bellingham school system and decided to spend the rest of my adult life in Bellingham, so I can connect there. Do you have any questions for us?
I do not.
Okay, great. Entertain a motion from the board.
I think that just came up.
I make a motion to appoint Richard Gilberti to the Bellingham Board of Health.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention, Hillary. I believe, Hillary, you'll need to be sworn in or anything like that?
Yes,
Tomorrow.
so
Well-
tomorrow, did they speak to that there is a Board of Health meeting
Yeah.
tomorrow?
They sent me the agenda.
So if
Okay.
you wanna, I'll have your paperwork to the town clerk's office first thing in the morning, so if you wanna swing into the town clerk, come in, be sworn in, and then you can participate in the first meeting tomorrow.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you, and
I
welcome.
really appreciate it. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Our scheduled 7:10 portion of the meeting is not a public style portion, so we can move that up. Chief, would you like to join us at the table?
Absolutely. I'm gonna bring the deputy and
By all means, yes.
union president as well.
Yeah, so for anyone watching, this is a discussion on Mass General Law, Chapter 111M and Mass General Law, Chapter 111N. And although I've got a preview, if you can fill the audience in on what those all relate to,
Absolutely.
so please.
Just to give an overview, the police and the fire, the public safety, when anyone gets hurt, hopefully they don't, but they go out on 111F, it's called 111F. We also hear it as OJI. Workers' comp is when a non-public safety gets hurt. Sorry. For the 111F, they go out, there's no loss of pay, and it's also not subject to state tax or federal tax. So the workers' comp, they get a 60-40, 60% comes from the workers' comp insurance company, 40 comes from the employee. So the money that comes from workers' comp insurance is not taxable. The employee is taxed on their sick time and vacation time. They're required to use supplemental. The state and the federal government has taken into account the fact that the public safety, they put themselves at risk so much more that they are allowed to just be paid for their time. There is no use of their sick personal vacation time. So on that note,
So was there a distinction between M and N?
that's where we swing over to them.
There you go, guys.
How's that for
That's a
the-
segue.
That was good. Thank you, Beth. I just have a quick statement. I'd like to read the whole thing. It'll shed some better light on it, and then we'll do questions and hopefully help you out a little bit. By adopting the 111M and N language will allow the fire department to become more adaptive and advanced in the hiring of staff for the town of Bellingham. To better serve the community and growth of the fire department in times where the availability of firefighters is at a premium due to shortage of new candidates, as well as the increase in all municipalities hiring these candidates. We're looking to broaden our ability to hire for our paramedic positions. This will allow us to meet the increased request for services on our department. This model is being implemented by several communities and has been in place in several others in Massachusetts. Adopting both articles is necessary to have on-the-job injury coverage, as Beth stated, for these new fire department members that is in line with the current members. The ability to look at this model and move forward has been a great collaboration with the fire department administration and local 2071. We believe this will allow the progression and growth of the department to allow us to better serve our growing community. This adoption of this language allows us to move forward with the recruit high-quality employees that will serve the members of the town of Bellingham. So basically what it is as Beth stated, 111F firefighter paramedics who do dual roles or firefighter EMTs are covered currently, or even I take it back, that are just straight firefighters are covered by 111F, which is essentially our workers' compensation. As we're looking at the big picture and planning out our future models and looking at our hiring, and as the deputy and Captain Provost and myself have had numerous conversations over the last several weeks, we realize that we're all fighting for the same small workforce. And the workforce for the fire service is very small. Firefighter paramedics is very small. We're finding either firefighter EMTs, which unfortunately we cannot use at this time. We really need firefighter paramedics, or we're finding just paramedics that may not want to be or do have no desire to be firefighters. What we're trying to work with, come up with is a plan, and we are working on it diligently to accommodate Bellingham Fire Department just hiring straight paramedics to work the ambulance. That's where the language of 111M and N come in. So basically what it does is, since they're not firefighters, they'll get the same coverage, he or she will get the same coverage as the current members of Bellingham Fire and Bellingham Police Department. So it just covers them in the event of an emergency, as Beth stated. If they get hurt on a call, whether it's a back injury or they slip and fall or something else, they're still covered. And we're looking for this blessing from the board to move this forward for the November town meeting, so it needs to be voted on by the residents, so we can adopt this and we can keep continuing to move this organization forward and better serve the community.
Chairman,
Yes.
one of the things that I'm doing, I'm working with the chief and fire department. I'm researching between our current workers' comp company, who would covers just general injuries, and my third-party administrator for the 111F. I'm working with them to make sure of the fiscal, any fiscal risk that there might be. So far, I've found none. Our third-party administrator, as far as our OJI, said that they thought that it would be an excellent thing to do, and it would be very fiscally responsible to do. And one of the things that it does, it makes it more attractive to someone who wants to come work for us. And now, in my opinion, which, this isn't talking with the chief and deputy and everything. In my opinion, the medical calls are such a huge volume right now that we need to get good people in there. And this would be a way to do it. So I'm researching with, as I said, my workers' comp, my third party, and the OJI to make sure that what I need to do to get them switched over. But we do need a town meeting vote on it.
I had multiple questions, but does anyone want to jump in first?
So sorry.
No.
So, our approval and support is needed here tonight so that we can put an article on so you guys will put an article on the town meeting warrant sponsored by the fire department
That is correct.
with our, okay.
Yes. Yes.
And I would base it on the findings that I have with the insurance companies. By the next meeting, I should have answers for vacations obviously going on.
Yep, my only other question was going to be, what is the financial implication, but it sounds like so far there really isn't any, so, and you're working on that, so that's it for me.
That actually partially answered my question. And how many are you thinking that hire as a paramedic?
So we haven't casted that yet, but we have started talking with some people, what we call in the private sector, may work for community MedStar, and we have some people that work part-time there, and they've been talking with their folks, and there's people who are interested in coming on board as strictly paramedics, but have no desire to be firefighters. So that allows us to take our current staff and shift over and staff our current equipment appropriately and properly where we should be, as well as still keeping constant coverage on the ambulance, again, which is our bread and butter. 3 times today, both ambulances are out within 10 minutes of each other. Right up to a half an hour ago before we came to this meeting, both ambulances were out back to back. So 80% of our call volume is medical emergencies.
So, no, this is gonna give actually huge help for you guys, and then it's gonna give you a little more flexibility. fill the shifts and then as well as, the ambulances are not gonna stay empty and then we gotta get a proper coverage for it. And I think it's like a huge plus to me. Yeah.
Chief, this is just gonna be headquarters, correct? Or is it gonna
Right.
be station one?
Right now, it'll be headquarters, until we can again come forward to the board with a, plan of what we'd like to do for hiring, how we'd like to do it. We're just not gonna come in and say we want this. We're collectively working with a third-party, agency right now that is truly doing a station study slash, staffing study assessment for Bellingham Fire. We hope we should have that ready to go before budget season starts and will be part of our budget proposal. We want to come in with some true scientific data, not just us saying this is what we think we need.
Yeah.
This is truly, we're hiring an outside vendor that's doing, running multiple models through, computer generated programs that they have. That's going to give us some good hard data.
The other thing I just really comment, the department is working with very tired crews and very tired, very tired equipment.
Correct.
So I think whatever you guys need, for assets, you're gonna get my support for.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
If approved at town meeting, would the effective date be January 1st or July 1st?
I'd like to do it January 1st, Mike, in case we have the chance of someone coming in truly just wants to be a paramedic and work the ambulance. I don't want to lose that window if we can help it.
Is this something you pursued in Hopkinton, or are they looking at?
We did, and it didn't fly.
It was a much larger
Yes,
coverage, shift coverage in Hopkinton.
correct. We ran 7 a shift there. What the goal was to be 8 through a study from the same company that I had used there. We're using as well here. So yeah, I would like it sooner than later if it does pass within the residents and it's voted as approval. Because we may still be able to cast that net and get some people who truly just want to be paramedics and work for Bellingham Fire, but just want to ride the ambulance and are very comfortable doing that.
So is this a case of getting ahead of other towns in the region to do it before? Yes, sir. That's fine.
It is exactly.
The budget situation, would that just require a budget transfer in January or just wait till the end of June?
What I'm looking at is because of the insurances and where they are, I think they'll probably flip flop. So I may be able to do it with just a budget transfer
Yeah.
over. And that's one of the things that I'll be looking at and working with Mary.
Yeah, so 2 more questions. So obviously we know that the ambulances run the most. If there were a fire and we had 6 men coming out of the station, do we run any risks if there was a fire by having paramedics who can't assist in a fire?
No, actually, it would help benefit us. By that, you're right now, so if we have a fire with our 6 personnel, we're 4 on the first engine out of headquarters and 2 out of the south station, and then a mutual aid ladder from the respective district, whether it be the north or the south. The ambulance gets dead end. So we don't get an ambulance until somebody comes in off duty, or we go to a working fire and then becomes a mutual aid ambulance at that point. By now, having adequate staffing and having 2 people assigned to the ambulance to strictly do EMS work, that ambulance is going out the door. In the event that there's a medical emergency at the house that we're going to, a burn victim, a smoke inhalation victim, or even one of our own firefighters that gets injured during this process, that ambulance is there and ready to go to work. A little bit further to Mike, it would also, if the call ends up being very minimal, we could clear it up. That ambulance is now staffed and can be cleared to take other calls within the community.
So you'd essentially be adding 2 more staff to any call by having the paramedics, because you're actually not using your firefighting capabilities to staff an ambulance.
So right
That
now,
is correct.
if there was a fire, say A2 was at the hospital, you're only running with 2 guys out of headquarters to
So it's a safety
potential for a
consideration.
construction fire.
Absolutely.
So my last question was
Absolutely.
actually, Captain, is from the union standpoint, is it a numbers standpoint, a benefit because you can have more members, or is it, when you come to the table and say that's a great idea, what is the local?
So we are definitely in support of this. We reached out to our District 3 VP for the through the PFFM out in Leominster. And they just implemented relatively same system. It's a little different because they don't run an ALS ambulance. So what they did is they took and they hired paramedics to go into a fly car to assist their BLS ambulance. They're still part of Leominster Fire. They're part of the union. They work for the city of Leominster, follow under their contract, but they're specific EMS personnel only.
So like when you look at the city of Boston, you see an ambulance roll and all of a sudden SUV is following them. That's the
Right.
additional members.
The flag
Yeah,
card, yeah.
correct.
We don't want to do a flag card at this time. Like, we want to put them truly on the ambulance.
Yeah.
So they have that resource with them and that ambulance is there all the time.
To answer your question directly, if it's specifically a numbers thing, I mean, I guess if you.
I'm not talking from a financial standpoint, I'm talking.
No, as a manpower,
Yeah,
as a manpower
yeah.
standpoint, yeah, I think it is, but at the same time, even part of these interviews that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. We've lost a couple of members, we've offered them, jobs through the deputy and the chief, and 2 days later they call us and say, well, this town's offering me more pay. So I'm gonna go work for them. So to really be competitive with these other towns, we have to start thinking outside of the box and offer them something that they're not offering them. Right? For us to sit here and say, well, these guys want a $2,000 sign-on bonus, they want more money, that, these contracts, when it comes to negotiations, they want $10,000 more. Because that's what they're getting from these other towns. We can't fix that today.
Right.
So we need to come up with something that's gonna be palatable to these medics that are out there that don't wanna be firefighters. But they're not gonna be sitting at a private ambulance company, responding to nursing homes and doing interfacility
That's like
transport.
Brewster over in Blackstone.
Correct.
So,
Community in Milford, they do all the 911 for the town of Milford. If you actually look at how many calls that they're doing that are strictly 911, it's probably pretty slim. Whereas they can come here, work for a town, be covered under a contract, fall into a pension system and do strictly 911 calls.
Yeah.
It's extremely appealing. However, like the chief said, if we have that opportunity and that door, that window opens, and this gets passed at the town meeting come January 1st, if we have these people that want to bite at this, we need to kind of make sure that we can go out there and get these top-notch paramedics, because that's really what we're looking to get.
The ultimate goal is to have firefighter paramedics. If we could get all firefighter, that would be great, right? But we know that that's not happening, and it's just not there. So how do we fix it?
So this is slightly to the right of the topic, but your predecessor had the issue of, at one point, we were always sending the engine with the ambulance, and then there was a step back from doing that. What is,
Let me allow, if I can answer that one, Cap.
so
So,
if I could just,
yeah,
so what is the policy now? And when you talk about staffing with this model, does that change the need to send an engine versus maybe a second vehicle to follow the ambulance?
so your first question is yes, we're still sending an engine. And the reason being for that, if you follow the 1910 NFPA 1910 standard, their EMS portion states they recommend 4 personnel on any medical. And every person there has a role, whether if it's a simple chest pain, cardiac arrest, a fall, every person there has a role. So we're still going to respond 4 personnel today with the engine because we don't have adequate staffing to make that happen. Now, if our staffing numbers per shift go up, we have started talking between the administration, deputy, myself, and the union on ways we can stop that engine going across town to handle calls. But today, Mike, there's no way we can stop it and still set adequate. Now, the other piece of that is there are times that the ambulance just goes with 2 because the engine and the ambulance out of headquarters are already tied up, or the engine's tied up on a call and both. It's happening more and more where we're just sending 2, especially out of south, until the engine or other personnel come in off duty and get there, or we use mutual aid.
Thank you. What's required from the board? A vote or just a discussion?
Right now, just a discussion. I'll bring it forward for the vote once we have the information as far as,
Company.
from the insurance companies. It can always be voted on,
Are we
Thank you.
gonna do a placeholder in the town meeting warrant so
We-
that we
we
will
already have
be,
one.
okay, perfect, so
I
we're
did- I
not,
did some one with
okay,
Kelly.
awesome.
Yes, please.
This might be towards Captain Provost. Is this for the NFPA minimum staffing? Well, do these paramedics count towards that?
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll be considered, shift staffing. However, they won't be considered as suppression staffing, it'll be EMS.
Correct.
Again, that allows us to keep 4 firefighter paramedics on an ALS engine that is still gonna be responding to calls, that will require paramedics. Like, this isn't to say that we're not gonna hire firefighter paramedics.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Like the deputy said, that is our ultimate goal, is to continue to hire firefighter paramedics, to keep that level at a certain standard and.
Well, I just know that we're operating at a 2012 level, so I wasn't sure if that would, if the paramedics would help with that, or,
They will,
okay,
but it's still, there's gonna take us some time, like, to get that, get up where we need to be.
gotcha.
And, you know, Mike Connor asked a really good question. We trying to get ahead of the communities? Yes, we are trying to get ahead of other communities
That's fine.
because we're all fighting. for
Nothing wrong
that
with that.
same. We want to be
It's
the
okay to
leaders,
be
Mike.
first.
Yeah, we want to be first.
Yeah.
One of the other things to keep in mind is by doing the paramedics and not the firefighters, we don't lose them to academy for how long?
10 weeks. Like that, 10
So
weeks.
if they came in and but now they have to go to academy, or the paramedics, they have to go there. If they don't pass, then they have to keep going back. So this is something that we could bring people in immediately into the force.
Correct.
I would ask as part of your analysis that at some point, let's say. When you look at your staffing requirements, is there an inflection point where? We have to have X number of firefighters qualified versus just EMTs, because if you all of a sudden, the next 7 or 8 hires are just in this role, we may run the risk of not having.
So we will continue to balance that and we will continue.
So I'd be interested in what you think that number is.
Yeah, yeah. I won't know right now until we
No,
see
I
what we're
wouldn't think
getting.
so.
So we'll,
If I can just touch on that a little bit, if we were just going to staff the ambulance at headquarters for now, I mean, again, this is a brand new system, right? Like, we're gonna have to work out the bugs. A lot of these kind of, I don't wanna call them failures because we don't know yet, but if the system does have breakdowns, we're not gonna know until the system is implemented. You know, it's.
It's a
unfortunate.
an error,
It's like a
which is
five-ring-
something-
It's for us, it's not bad.
It really becomes a question of if someone is needed to come in for overtime, that they have to have that qualification.
Correct.
Specific
Yes.
duties that are lined up.
But if we were gonna cover just the ambulance at headquarters for now, it would be 8, we would require at least 2 medics for EMS for the 4 shifts.
Okay, great.
But this is great because then you don't run the risk of, say, what has been happening in the past, which is you lose the firefighter and paramedic in one because they no longer want to be a firefighter. So then you're hit double where you could just hire the paramedic and then you're not hit if that firefighter.
And it
wants
works
to.
the other
So-
way where you might get the paramedic in as a young paramedic, didn't have an interest in the fire service, and all of a sudden, now they pick it up and they start to go, wow, this is what I might want to do, and then we can move them to that next level.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
there's always that possibility of
Just to-
bringing them in.
Kind of touch on what Beth had mentioned about the academy. We're looking at like an 8-month.
Yeah,
That's true.
Wait time.
Just to even get into an academy class.
if we hire somebody today, and we put their name in today, it's 8 months from today, if we're lucky.
And that-
This is a carrot to get them on board, part of Bellingham, and then they can continue on.
They could either continue to ride the ambulance if that's what they truly want to do. Or as the deputy said, they might see something they like on the fire side, may want to shift over, but it gives us options right now. We don't have options. So we're looking to have, what can we do better for the community? What can we do better for the residents? That's what we're looking to do today.
Another thing too, is this is gonna make us more appealing towards paramedic programs.
Yes.
For the students to come in and ride. And then again, even so, you know, that person comes in, they like the system, they like the department. They're more apt, you know, to stick around and hang around and become a full-time member at that point as well, so.
And they're essentially doing a trial interview if they're here
Correct. You know.
Correct,
working the ambulance.
We get to
You
see
might
that.
already say
Exactly.
this
right?
person would be a really good fit. And if they show interest, then you can get them right at ground level.
It's like a farm team for any successful baseball.
Fantastic.
It have good draft picks and prospects.
No, well presented, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah,
Again, if anybody anytime has any other further questions, please stop by and see us. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks guys for coming in.
Very well, thank you.
We have about 10 items in our other business component of the meeting. I see Betsy on the line. Betsy, are you up for the next one? You're muted. Betsy, you're muted.
Can't hear you.
I'm ready if you are.
All right, she's here for the people.
you to explain the
Land donation.
donations.
Do I just jump to that, Betsy, so that we can get you off the
Sure,
call?
okay, okay.
On donations.
So we have situations whereby taxpayers offer to donate land to us. This just happened recently. It was on the meeting in May. The Maple Street property that was donated by Mr. Compton, it had to appear before town meeting because this parcel wasn't tax title. The town had a lien on it, and there was no way that this gentleman had any intention of paying the taxes on it because he actually purchased the parcel from the town many years ago at a tax sale. So when this happens, the only way to accept the donation is for the town meeting voters to approve it because we're waiving the taxes. That's one type of donation. That's the most common form of donation. People find that the parcels that they purchased aren't buildable, or they bought it on a lark and then they realize this is worthless, I can't do anything with it. They let the parcel go. We attach a lien on it, and it's very costly to pursue closure on these small parcels. We'd like to, spend our money on parcels that, have a much higher balance. So the other form of donation happens sometimes when somebody simply has an unbuildable piece of land and they are tired of paying taxes on it. And when this situation occurs, they either come to my counter or maybe the treasurer's. And the process that has evolved over time is this. Taxpayer wants to donate. I tell the taxpayer, we need that in writing to the Board of Select Persons as well as the treasurer. Once that letter is lodged, and of course I say, please copy me, I create a packet. I copy the deed from the prior sale, the map, any parcel record card, anything that I have, so that we know what we're possibly going to accept as a donation. When this happens, I'll talk to Tim, the building inspector, and we typically say, go take a look at this property, make sure it's not full of tires or visible, anything that would be considered hazardous. And when the report comes back clean, I prepare a deed and we accept it. I do not believe we need town meeting approval for that. Oftentimes this happens when, say, the Conservation Commission wants a piece of land. I know this happened recently up on Farm Street. The 7-acre parcel was paid in full, but the people didn't want it. They had no reason to keep it. It wasn't buildable. They donated it expressly to the Conservation Commission. And I do not believe that needs town meeting approval. And that's really basically the simple donation process. It doesn't happen often. We do have a placeholder for another Mr. Compton parcel. It really was supposed to be bundled with the Maple Street parcel. It's a small parcel on Beach Street. I've already given Hillary a package on that. And we have 2 more pending, and we'll have some more information about that. We have to take a look at the land, where it is. There's a little bit of research involved before I would even recommend considering a donation, but that's basically the process.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? Motion required.
It was more of an explanation. Do we have anything?
Betsy, this one that we're presenting right now is in tax title, correct? So it will go on the town meeting warrant.
Yes, that parcel on B Street was purchased at town tax title auction many years ago.
Yeah. So,
And,
is it your understanding that the board tonight needs to, make a motion to accept, this donation?
Well, I think they could take it under consideration. I don't believe, I've talked to Tim, we haven't actually looked at this small little piece of land, but this will be the process on any of these parcels that, are in tax title. We have a couple more that are pending, and I'll present them once we know that they're viable candidates for donation. That's to say that there's no title flaws, that the file's intact. But the one that you have that I've already given you, that parcel, actually, Mr. Compton wanted to donate both parcels, and somehow we just didn't respond to the Beach Street one that you're looking at now.
I will entertain a motion to accept parcel located at Beach Street, map 4, parcel 33, subject to the approval of the building inspector.
Second?
Discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
opposed, none, Tim, you'll do your thing.
Okay.
Thank
And
you,
I'll
Beth.
funnel, thank you. And any more that there, like I said, we do have a couple more and I'll work with Hillary long before the next town meeting to make sure they're viable candidates for inclusion.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Betsy.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
The next item on the agenda is the acquisition of a portion of Depot Street property, discussion of the town's property located on Depot Street and owned by VW Equity LLC.
So this is just the motion to,
This is the sliver. of
yep,
Depot.
Yeah.
acquire the land that we need for the new DPW building.
And those are the papers that you've signed.
Yeah.
The purchase and sale.
Yeah, but we have another, we have the acceptance of the deed for you to sign tonight, and this is all preparation for the closing next Monday.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to read the requisite motion?
I'm pursuant to the vote taken under Article 22 of the May 24, 2023 annual town meeting to acquire for general municipal purposes a portion of the Depot Street property owned by VW Equity LLC for consideration of $45,000 and to execute and to authorize
Michael Conn.
Michael Connor to execute on behalf of the select board any and all acceptances, settlement statements, affidavits, and other documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish said acquisition.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Seeing none here and then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. All right, next up on the docket, Katrina Carrazza appointment.
Yes, we have, as I've explained in the past, we had several open positions that we are thankfully filling. We have one that I have created in the Planning and Conservation Office. We have, as everyone probably knows, that we hired our new conservation agent. She started today. Tim took her out for a tour. And she's very excited. She's already started moving the furniture around and ready to go. And she's all into this. So to help with the office, with her and Amy, we have created a position of administrative assistant to the conservation and planning. Katrina is applied for it, and I would like to recommend that she be recommended by the board and appointed. She's already worked for us. She's worked for several years. She worked in several different positions, so she knows the flow, she knows the people. I worked with Tim, and as he's over that group, he agrees that she would be a very good fit. So I am asking the board to recommend and appoint.
Motion to appoint Katrina Carozza as the administrative assistant, planning and conservation.
Second,
Second,
Kelly on that second, first and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minutes. Next up is the minutes, right? Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah.
All. How many we have here? March, May,
Wait, who's
April?
doing them? You or Mike? Oh, okay.
You wanna do it? I can do that, okay.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah, okay. You wanna do it? You wanna do it like this?
I've never done that before.
No?
Oh, you
Okay,
haven't
well,
done them?
okay.
Oh, that's right, because
Yeah, we haven't done it, okay.
why don't you do them?
Yeah, I'll-
You can-
I have them over
I
here. Okay.
printed them too, okay. Thank you.
Do I start with the March first or
Yep, wanna start with, March.
We'll do them collectively, just read them. Right?
just the total numbers?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah, do March, April, May, June, then we'll do one vote.
okay, I would like the motion to accept, do I wanna do the motion at the end or you wanna read it first?
Make a motion
Yeah.
to accept the, March abatements as follows.
As follows, capital improvement charge $270, sewer $622.78, stormwater 96, trash $387.23. Water $1,696.84, grand total of $3,072.85.
Any discussion? Okay, then you wanna just go right into the, April?
Yep. And, I would like to make a motion to accept the, abatements for April 2023 as follows. Capital improvement charge $45, sewer $22,022.04, stormwater $12, water $68.89, grand total of $22,148.29.
In discussion, you'd see the note at the bottom by Barbara, there was an error.
The Charles,
Yeah.
yeah.
May,
I'd like to make a motion to accept the abatements for May 2023 as follows. Sewer $12.95, water $5.05, rent total of $18.
Second,
any discussion? No, we got one more.
Okay. And we're gonna do the June next one, right? I would like to make a motion to accept the June 2023 abatements as follows. Capital improvement charge $907.52. Sewer $1,985.11. Sewer service charge 2 cents. Stormwater $276.69. Trash $985.73. Water $3,061. Water service charge 44 cents. Rent total of $7,156.12.
do we have a second?
Second.
Mike, general question,
Mhm.
how far back are we going on when senior lifeline occurs? I'm looking at some of the ones for June, and clearly if
Yeah.
water is going back 3 cycles, do we not go back longer than X bills?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I mean, if someone came forward and said, I should have asked for the last 3 years, we only do it in the current fiscal year, is that correct?
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
Okay, because otherwise we're screwing up our free cash.
Yeah.
Right,
then
It's
we
been
would
our
be-
policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to cross fiscal years.
All right, we have a first and a second, any further discussion? Assuming we're all set, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, none, 4-0. Gifts, grants, acceptance. You got this.
This is the 911 grant that the police station gets us every year. They are fantastic in getting this. What it's used for, I did ask them for a little information on what it's used. Lieutenant Russell explained that it's usually for things, smaller things that come up that are not covered in the budgets, but a couple of things they did was the bulletproof vest. They did, they bought emergency replacement of water heater. They have bought defibs. This helps immensely. It's 50, the one that I'm looking at now was $53,000 worth of products and items that we wouldn't have got otherwise. Once again, we thank the police. I know that Lieutenant Russell and Carrie Rapone work diligently on this, getting it done every year, so it's much appreciated. So we need a motion to accept the grant.
I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the gifts and grants as listed herein with said expenditures to be under the direction of the parties noted. The amount is $55,942, and it's from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for the E911 Support and Incentive Grant.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion, seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. Next up, Capital Improvement Committee appointment, Mike, you're taking over. Yep, all right.
Make a motion to appoint Mike Hennessy to the Capital Improvement Committee.
Second.
First and second, thank you for stepping up. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4-0. July 17th minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of our July 17th meeting as presented and prepared by Hillary.
Second.
Any questions on Hillary's extraordinary work? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, none, 4-0. Announcements, just as a reminder, the special election will occur on August 29th, 2023 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Bellingham High School. This is the day before school starts. There will be staff in the building, but not students. And following that, next meeting is September 14th.
No, our next meeting, the 11th, we have one on the 11th and the 18th, so we have to play that one by ear. It's Monday.
Then it's the 11th.
Yeah,
So all
we
set
have
on
two,
that?
yeah.
And we are now into old business before new business. Pearl Street Solar Battery Storage Project. Beth, you know if there's?
This is the section that I have spoken to you before about. We've met with the department heads. This is the battery storage. And it's on Pearl Street near the Charles River. We did have a meeting with the department heads. I've met with the fire chief. The concerns, this is looking at an extension of an additional 6 months on this lease. The feeling with the department heads was that we don't know enough about what the potential hits could be. If there was contamination with the Charles River right there. As far as soil remediation, this is a relatively newer project that's going on. And more things are coming up where we're finding that there are questions that we are concerned about. Tim was there and I'd like him to follow up as far as conservation and that area.
Yeah, so a couple of points. So we met as a group in our monthly meeting, we did discuss, and there was representatives from the company.
I think
as well.
someone is on right now
Yeah.
too, just saying.
So we had a lot of good questions, everybody from all of our departments present, fire department, planning, building, health. Some concerns, we haven't seen a final plan as to, how the site would be designed, as far as, so this is a relatively new thing, battery storage. So, but they're around, we didn't see a design. This site is placed right next to the river. So I think, before you make a decision moving forward, I think we'd probably really want to see a design of how you're going to contain this thing. If there was ever an issue with the storage, it's a very tough thing to put out for a fire if something starts to burn. We did hear a comment saying, you let the thing burn out. Depending on how you fight a fire with that, you got to consider runoff, capturing, how you're going to capture this thing. So, without a design, we really couldn't make a good decision whether it was a good fit for the spot or not. We just tried to collect all the data for you guys to make a decision whether it was worth it. The risk was worth, what the reward was here to lease this property and how long they wanted to lease it for. I'm not really sure on that regard. I didn't read the lease. But without a design, we really couldn't go forward with a positive recommendation for it. It's kind of a sensitive site there. We just went through the whole. We got rid of the factory there. They took the dam away. I guess that would be up to the board here whether you wanted to move forward with this or not. So
They are looking for the 6-month extension.
Yep.
But again, as Tim said, the department heads, this is obviously your decision.
Yep.
But we have met and we have talked with the vendor and met with them several times.
I mean, I have my opinion, but be interested in the rest of the board's thoughts. I'll share mine if you'd like.
I'm not sure.
I think this gentleman is on from, if you guys have any questions for him from the company.
I'm very comfortable with our department heads.
What are your thoughts?
My immediate question is the proximity to the water. If something was to happen, and you have to put something on it to put it out, how are you gonna collect all this material before it gets into the soils of our, of the property. It was a factory site there to begin with. We're just, we got rid of all of the factory now. There's still some stuff there, being stored there, but eventually that's gonna be all gone and, we're gonna restore it to, just a vacant lot. So I'm sure there's other ideas that, some of the different, groups in town could maybe come up with for, another use, but again, it's up to the board to,
What's the holdup with the plans? Why they don't have the proper plans in place yet?
So, the company, stated in our meeting that, they need a lot of approvals, from the utilities for, I believe, that location, I think. And permits, again, battery storage is a new, is relatively new. We don't even have it in our zoning. So we have solar in our zoning, but battery storage, like I said, in the last couple of years, yes, we do have sites in town that have battery backup on their sites. But this is our property here, so, it's kind of a new, it's just a new thing. I mean, as we move forward, new things come up and, it's not even in our zoning yet. So we wouldn't even approve a site unless it would go to ZBA, first of all, because of the use. It's a sole use. It's not an accessory to anything. So a solar field is the primary use on most of these projects. And the battery is accessory to it. So when you have a piece of property that doesn't have a primary use, it's an accessory use. So I would send that to ZBA right away anyway. So, and then they would regulate it too. But, there's also an environmental thing that's going with it, so, I mean, I think all that has to be taken into account and just, really think about that piece of property.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable giving them another lease extension. I don't think it's worth it. We just had to clean up the site and it just seems like this idea is itching for trouble.
Too many variables, and I 100% agree with what Tim said.
As clarification, I was talking with Jim Cuthbert, and it's now been ruled that towns cannot exclude any of the solar farms or anything. They can't put a ban in. So, yeah, so it's not that we're saying no to any of them.
Yeah, right.
It's so I
Specifically
wanna
the
make sure-
battery
It's
storage.
storage, I
It's
was
the
saying.
location and
Yeah.
everything that's
Yeah.
the issue. We're not banning any.
Not even so much as the battery storage. This is the town's property. So the town is in control of their own property.
Yeah,
It's not like it's a private piece that someone is coming in for. Maybe if they came in with a design, maybe you could revisit it later, to see if it was a good fit for the town and for that spot. I think, you could always leave it open for them, to come back. The property isn't going anywhere. I think we're looking for things to do with that property, that may be, a good fit as well. Maybe battery storage, in a couple, I don't know when they plan to get their approvals or anything through the utilities, but maybe it'll be more perfected, or they would have a more defined site plan that would show protection of our property and the proximity to the water kind of thing, that maybe an updated design. Maybe later on you could look at it. You could, you may be interested in re-looking at it.
Now, when you said it, I mean, when the fire chief is, when you mentioned that you gotta let it burn, the neighbors all around it. I mean, this.
It was a collective,
No, it makes sense.
from all the departments,
Yeah.
kind of put their input in. It wasn't anybody.
Put it down, the amount of chemicals you're gonna use, that's gonna go straight into the Charles River. It's absolutely, I'm with each other on that one. And I don't feel comfortable at all too, I think the reward is,
So having signed an initial contract, having had that contract see its first extension occur, this board has the latitude to take further action. I would make a motion to take no further action and at this time not extend the contract for battery storage at the Pearl Street.
second,
First and second, any further discussion?
I've been in touch with KP Law.
Yep.
To go over what we would need to do for this, so they're prepped so that we can have everything done the way that we need to.
And who would sign, or there'd be no need to sign, just letter of notification?
It's a letter of notification.
yeah, because their lease would essentially be lapsed.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Kelly, can you give a recap on Bellingham?
Oh, Bellingham days. It was a little bit of a bummer that we couldn't open on Thursday due to the rain, but after lengthy discussions with the carnival and the fire chief and NEMA, the rides would not have been able to operate with it raining, so we made the right decision there. It was very well attended. There were no incidences, which was great. The fireworks were amazing. The traffic was all cleared out within 20 minutes. And each organization, OpGrad and Bellingham Friends of Music, each made $3,600, which I delivered to each chair today to deposit in their accounts. We had a blast. We had lots of volunteers. It was very busy. It was wonderful to see Dennis did stop by Friday and Saturday for a little bit, which was awesome. He got his 2 bags of cotton candy to take home, which we know is the real reason he came, was cotton candy. Rockwall Amusements is just great to work with. They always say how wonderful we are as a town to work with, and I always tell them that it's wonderful to work with them because they're just such a well-oiled machine, and they make it easy for us. They allow us to sell those, discounted wristband tickets to make it a little more affordable for our families. And I think everyone who came out had a good time. The weather couldn't have been better. The bands were great. It was a really, really nice weekend and exactly what we wanted to happen. So it will be planning typically will start in like October for next year, which is a lot to wrap my head around right now, 2 days past the event.
Already put a place marker in fireworks.
Yes, so, and Rhode Island Pyrotechnics does a great job as always. We always have one of the best fireworks displays. It was easily a half an hour. And Juliana, who is kind of their point person, who's here, I was on the phone with her Friday and making sure everything was all set. And all of our police, fire, DPW, I cannot say enough good things about them. They're at the mobile command center they set up was pretty awesome, with the borrowed Polaris vehicles and their trailer, and it was so cool. So we had a great weekend.
In the parks with doing all the fencing and everything.
Oh yeah, the
And
parks.
striping and
You never realize how much goes into all of this until you're in the thick of it. And then and thankfully, a couple things went, off here and there, but very, very minor. So
personally, I'd like to say thank you very much. And as we know, Dennis always was right into the middle of it with you, and you picked up and went through like a champ. It was very much appreciated, and the kudos go out to you. It was fantastic.
And the important thing was the fried dough was there, right?
oh my God, it was so good. They had a
Everybody was-
line the
everybody
whole
had to
time.
have
It was
fried dough.
like they're stretching it fresh. It was so good. Brownie sundaes. Yeah, the food was great. We had Lieutenant Russell actually on Saturday brought his own drone from home and actually did some aerial photographs before it started, during and after, and it was a good tool for them to see where, people were. But we got some pretty amazing nighttime shots of everything up, and both chiefs were there both days, which is awesome, and they're talking with everyone, and I just keep coming back to it. Everyone was just so happy to be there, whether it was you were on detail, you were just stopping by, you were attending, everyone was smiling. Great day.
We had added to the agenda a member committee updates. A few months back, we kind of divided up the tasks. We may not have had any meetings individually, but thought we just go down the line and what committee we're on, and if there's anything to report other than that's quite. CIC now.
Yeah,
Are you roads too?
I thought I was just CIC.
Oh, you're
I
road.
thought I was in the room.
Okay.
I don't think we had a meeting.
You
for
haven't
that.
had one, no?
No, the only meeting we had was the one that Beth and we were in together,
Yeah.
the PFAS one.
Yep.
And we moving with the project, and then actually we interviewed two different companies. And they both were, I think it was fantastic, they're neck to neck. And I think the company we decided was, and we all agreed, you know, they had actually a few PFAS projects in the works. And one of them is actually just being right next down to us in Medway. And they almost complete that project, I think, if I recall. And I think it's gonna be a great fit for us. And Sean worked with him in the past too, you know, he highly spoke about them. And then we went through all the things, you know, that they have done so far. And I think, you know, they checked everything in the boxes for us. And so that's, I think that's gonna be a huge process.
Just a thought on CIC, I know that we have new police, new fire, and usually there's a 5-year plan for all of their vehicles.
Working on them.
Yeah, I think one of the oddities is with not having a CFO in place. With cash availability, what that'll end up looking like.
She sent out an email over the weekend, because I have been getting lots of requests, or questions about capital requests for the fall town meeting. So she did send out an email, to the department heads.
Yeah.
Yep.
She sent it out and explained to them, not to interrupt, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine.
She explained to everyone what the steps would be, just as they were in the past, and explained to the fire chief and the police chief. Everything will come into me, and I'll work with Hillary and Katrina and everyone getting everything all set up so that as she comes in on the weekends. And she also is working with Tina to get the schedule set up for the meetings.
Yeah, so you'll see,
So-
that's when you'll start
So
seeing.
everything is in the works. And I do know that the police, the fire is looking at a 10-year outlay, the plan. And the police are also looking at it, so they're very excited about getting that going. I think it will be very good.
I had some discussions with Mr. Morano as an example. I think that we had talked last year, that I took exception to the fact that I don't think our board articulated what we were comfortable with for our ending free cash, and hence how much money would be available
For now,
to
yeah,
the school department, and it was something that was done outside the board to determine how much the school department should receive overall funding. And I think we need to take a harder look at the board's role in advance of setting how much cash we want on hand, as opposed to unilaterally coming up with a number of, let's give X. Usually the example of the schools, $1 million. But if there's going to be $1 million in free cash and the school department wanted $1.5 million, we want to take a harder look at that number before we get into the budget process, and not after they've gone through an exercise of, well, here's what we want, here's what we have to cut, here's what we're gonna be at the end. I think we can do a better job. I know you would set some up.
Yep.
All right, any other departments that I'm missing, Hillary?
Kelly, I
I will
will.
do.
Yep.
So I'm part of the Age and Dementia Friendly Community Committee with the BGSA and the Council on Aging. Their next meeting is September 12th. We've had a few meetings. We've had representatives from AARP and the state come in and give us some sort of broad spectrum things about what an age and dementia friendly community would look like. It's a big undertaking. At our last meeting, we had both the fire chief and the police chief come in so we could discuss some of the concerns with them. This is a year-plus project to get this certification going. But we have done all the required paperwork for the for AARP and the state. DPW building committee will be looking to meet again this week, because it is getting ready to go out to bid, which is very, very exciting. You know, a couple minor things here and there with, you know, to put on for alternate bid, so we just need to meet and finish those discussions. Community garden, I've been supporting them this season. Community garden is actually on our calendar for one of these.
Well, you had asked us to do a placeholder in September.
Yes, and we will have the community garden manager, her name is Mickey DeFosse. She would come in, and just give us an overview of how the garden went this year. I've gone over there a couple times when they've had, a couple issues here and there with things and land getting new signs. CIC, they just went over that. Bernadette, had reached out to me that she would like to get something going. She said after Bellingham days, calm down, she wanted to start brainstorming, with different members of the town as to how we can better communicate things out to the public, which I think that has come up, multiple times with different things, how we can better streamline and better communicate. Bellingham days we touched on, but that will need to start being planned, but we also need to keep in mind that that was kind of Dennis's brainchild, so it could be subject to the next town administrator coming in and either not wanting to spend the money on fireworks and do something else, or, you know, keeping this going or not going. We have the placeholders there, but ultimately that would be something that the next town administrator would have to talk about. And I think everyone knows what's going on with the charter, so we're not going to talk about that. I think we've talked about the charter till we're
So
blue in the face.
3 quick points. If we are designated age and dementia community, would that open us up to grants?
Correct.
Second, you talked about better communication about maybe using the space that was the old Domino's to put a message board.
Yep.
And it made me think, your reverse 911 on the town administrator survey for people to sign up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had registered your email, you got the survey in advance.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's value on all of our outbound bills, water, sewer, et cetera, that we put a reminder as part of that process, that option exists to go here.
I'll check to see
Is
if it
there-
can be done.
Can I ask a question too? I know that we, when I was working with Michael in the schools to get the,
Middle.
electric signboard at the middle school, there was grant money through Maya.
Mhm.
Would that be available to look at again, to help with a sign out here, or do you
They-
only get it once for that
they-
purpose?
You can get it numerous times for the same purpose, but it's what they are offering. Because
Okay.
they focus pretty much on certain things each year.
Okay.
But with that being said, I will definitely touch base with them, because sometimes they can work with me and we can kind of find something that would work.
Yeah, I mean, because those signs aren't cheap, so even
No, then,
anything will help.
Yeah.
and the school has been very accommodating, if we need something for the town. put it
Yeah.
in there.
I think from a
It's really
location
good.
standpoint, though, that's the central.
Yep.
Yeah.
You may not go by the middle school, but you may take Mechanic Street.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, anything else? New business, Mike?
I don't know. If people saw on the mom's page, there was a post about Bellingham mom's page, my wife brought it to my attention. About the condition of the playground at our camp park. And the landscaping. I went there,
Arcan Park or Silver Lake?
sorry, Silver Lake, sorry.
That's on my list.
Yeah, no, actually, this isn't about that though. I went there to go see firsthand and the two script workers, I don't know if you call them script workers or not, the senior volunteers. Asked me to go around, there was 5 grills going at the park. And when I went around, they had told the people not to do it because it was against regulation. They were ignored. So I went around, had everybody wrap their grill up. And then during one of the times, there was basically a kegger going on under the tent. I basically told them that's not allowed, it's town property. When I went back, the volunteers basically they said, just leave it alone, the guys, people were wrapping it up. But I don't know if we could possibly have the police start making some rounds. And they did request that we have bigger signage saying
Yeah.
no grills, no alcohol
Yeah.
allowed.
Perfect segue.
Yeah.
So, for the town administrator's report, what do you go from?
Yeah, sure.
here?
Okay.
This leads into what you're talking about. Today I went down to Silver Lake to look at the area. I went with Sean Harrington, the Assistant DPW Director. we saw the problem areas and one of the things, and fortunately, Sean, Jesse, and I have already sat down and talked a lot about Silver Lake improvement. It's one of the things would be getting rid of the girls, period. Because they're dangerous. Girls, they're very dangerous once they're running around. That also keeps down the picnics in the paper and things thrown around. But we're going to come up with a review. We're going to go over to Medway Choke Park to see, because they've just done a revamping on that. To see what they've done, talk to the Parks and Recreation Director to see what she recommends as far as things that they've done that are good, things that they've done that it's not worth the money.
Yeah.
To get an idea on how to bring this back up into what it should be, to make it, a very nice park. It does need work. It needs to have some cleaning done up. I have the Parks kids going there tomorrow to start to get some of the weeds out of there and start getting it cleaned up. But it is very high on our list to get these things done. It will probably be coming before capital to get some money so that we can start doing that, which would include signage and things like that, because it's a constant issue with that.
Well, it's kind of hard, like the two of them they were very nice, very great workers. They said it's kind of hard because they're volunteers. They're not gonna chase them into the park. And I mentioned, well, you can always call the police,
I was gonna say that.
but they were afraid of is there was two of them at that point in time, one of them was leaving. She was like, well, what about retribution? If they were on their way out and, somebody decides to do something, they're volunteers.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mentioned to them, we had a meeting, I would bring it up. I know you'd be all over, probably be all over it.
And I'll mention to the police to see if they can get it on kind of a routine
Right.
check, just to, sometimes just having them show up once in a
Right,
while
enough.
is enough.
When people pay the fee, do we hand out the rules?
That I
It's all
don't,
done on the website now. When you get
They
your
were
pass.
having huge issues with the permitized system as well.
but they can also go to the
Yeah.
DPW, so, but that's a
Maybe
good
there's a
idea.
way
If we
to
can
sign up
hand it out.
terms and agreements that you're signing off that will be removed and you'll lose your privileges and.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anything else in your report?
Oh, yeah. Are you done with your?
I'm also not
Good. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. The posting is up for the town administrator position. John Petrin is working on that. I'm sure everyone saw there was a very nice article in the Milford Daily News about Dennis. So we do have that up and running. They are supposed to have the applications into Paradigm by September 8th. And as I said in the posting, it's all in confidence so that people, when they send in their application and a resume, it's not going to be blasted. No one is going to know, which is critical.
May I ask a question really quick? Is there any way for us to find out from Paradigm just on how many people filled out the survey that we put out there?
Absolutely.
Like just a number?
Yep.
I was just curious. I know that when we did one for master plan, we were able to get a number.
Yep.
I'm just
Yep.
curious.
I will take care of that. CFO posting, I have it to review. It will look exactly like what was sent out for the town administrator, same format. I'm just going through it, making sure that everything's up to date. Some of the paragraphs are the same wording because obviously it's not the same town. So I'll make sure that everything's up to date on that, and that will be posted and put out there. Silver Lake, we just touched on that. Like I said, we'll probably be looking at coming to Capitol. It would be nice to have it refreshed and brought up to maybe being proud again. The remediation pond at the middle school, which is,
Stormwater basin,
it's actually a rain garden.
rain garden,
Yes.
it's not a retention pond.
It's a rain garden. Tim and I went up there today with several people. We went up with Hannah, our new conservation. I went up with Sean. We had the DOT there. Vinny was there. Principal Cutler. So we were all up there. And if you want to give a quick.
Sure, so, Yeah, I think, there's been a lot of, talk about it, obviously, it's on the chats. So what's going on with that is, that was, it's not completed, first of all. And we really didn't know that, we're looking at the condition of it with the overgrown, weeds and stuff like that, so. What happened was, they started on that early, is what they explained to us today, the GC. They started on that early and, before they could start some other work, so they got all that completed, but they never totally finished it, and they let it go to weeds. That's what ultimately what happened, it went to weeds, but they did do all the plantings in the basin. And they had scheduled this week to come in and clean it all up. Finish grade the banks, spray all hydroseed where all the bare dirt is. There's still some light, grading to do with this walkway coming down from 126. I don't know if heading toward the old town administrators, the superintendent's office that used to be right on the corner years ago. So that right there only has one coat on it. I did inform them that that's gonna have to be done this week, the second coat, because there's a little bit of a step for the asphalt. The edge, the edges have to be graded to the walkway. They know that. They know we informed them when school's starting, would like to get it presentable for that.
Mr. Morano seemed to indicate that the original schematics didn't show a fence.
Yeah, I don't know about that, what was discussed as far as the fence goes. There is always gonna be a little bit of water there because it is a rain, it's a rain garden, so there's a spillway.
Yeah.
And they'll probably, depending on the type of year we have, it could be dry all the time. But, when we have a lot of rain now, and the spillway is a 12-inch spillway, so it's made to take the water in. The whole purpose of it was to mitigate, the impervious areas in town, and that's why we did it, and that's why that spot was, recommended, and they moved forward on it. As far as the fence goes, I'm not really sure why,
Could you
maybe
revisit
some
that,
people think
because that was considered an eyesore, I believe, by the school committee.
that the fence.
One of the things that you have to take into consideration is insurance. So,
I understand that, but if the town was sold, that, Mr. Martinez, do you know the answer?
What was supposed to have been done is there was a fence, and they were gonna put nice higher shrubbery around the fence to block off the fence. The fence was absolutely an eyesore, so we had conversations about that. And I remember Mr. Frank saying there was like $75,000 of landscaping built into that project. So they likely haven't completed, because they haven't, there's supposed to be some shrubberies or some higher, like whatever around that fence to block it off.
$76,000.
$75,000 worth of weeds right now.
Yeah, so,
I don't know where that 75 went, but I remember that.
all the shrubbery is planted.
It is?
There's just a couple of shrubs that were missing, okay? It looks like it does. Just from me going up there and looking at it, it's overgrown and it wasn't completed. And it doesn't look like it was the way it was designed. So they're going in supposedly this week, they told us that, the contractor that built the basin is going in and they're gonna clean it all up. And they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna grade the banks, they're gonna hydro seed, they're gonna blend it where it needs to be blended, and it's gonna look like the design. Now, I know, there was a lot of meetings on that, and, a lot of people had a chance to put input in on that. This was something that was talked about for a good eight or 9 months.
It was just the execution.
So I think, it's out there now and people are seeing it and it doesn't look good, to be honest with you. So they're going out there to clean it up. I think, the fence isn't going away. There is water in that basin and it's a liability. The fence has to be there. I think we give them a chance to make it look good. And then we'll have to decide what to do from there. Maybe we go for additional landscaping. I don't know the answer to it, but it is the design that was approved.
one of the things that we had talked about too was because of where it is, we're going to be looking into hiring a professional landscaper because our Parks Department has a very limited window anyways. And they're not skilled in keeping something that manicured, and they need to do it more often.
They're just saying they cut the weeds in the plants when they trim.
Right.
Everything will be gone.
Yeah.
But I think, if moving forward, once we see what it looks like, if we maybe bring somebody in just to maintain it, instead of letting it go like that. Really, it's not supposed to look like that.
When we supposed to have the control, the whole
So that's gonna be turned over, that's scheduled to be turned over in October. It was supposed to be completed by October. They started it way ahead and they let it go to weed. You know, shame on them because now it's gonna be more work for them. Now they have to remove the weeds and save the plantings that they have in the basin. So it's not gonna be an easy task for them, but that's their contract.
And they did mention that they actually were first expecting to do this in the spring. So they were saying they're really like 8 months ahead of time. So everything, as Tim said, they got it in ahead of time, but now they've made more work.
Yeah.
So.
Court of public opinion.
I think, you know, let's see what it looks like when they turn it over and then we'll have to decide what we wanna do. Maybe we wanna add some landscape, like I said. You know,
And Principal Cutler was there and they talked with the DOT we were there quite a while.
Yeah.
Looking at it and they seemed comfortable that everyone is, okay, we know that this has to be done and what they're looking for.
Who has the copy of the original plans, you know, what they said they were gonna.
so they had the plans,
I mean, if they're supposed to do it, I mean, they should do it.
they had the plans there
I
on
think we
site.
showed at a school committee meeting.
Yeah.
We might be able
They
to
approved
pull it up at one of the videos.
There are plans out there. I mean, the plans really, if you look at it, it's black and white, but it has all the plantings on it and it has it's a full rendering, but it's just, you know, black and white to scale. But it has all of the species of plants in the key for it and they're all numbered, you know, so it's all there. It's just doesn't look very good right now. I think we're gonna have to see what it looks like after this week.
Yeah, and Tim and I'll keep on it. You know, and we've got Hannah who will be on it also, so.
Thanks.
All set?
Let's give it-
Okay, CFO status, I talked to Mary this weekend, I usually meet her every weekend and go over things real quick. She is working on year-end closing, is moving along, critical issues have been completed, such as rolling over for the departments. So she is working on that. She has provided a checklist for me to look at the progress being made and keep track of everything. So I'm in constant contact with her and working with her, getting everything done. She is also working with the departments on a daily basis, so we're moving along. It's pretty much on target. Let me see, we have the capital, I talked about capital. The next meeting, Hillary, I'd like to put on the agenda to have Karen. Karen will come in and present for IT review of the report of the cyber event. So she will go over that and close it up. We have, I just found on the website on Friday, I got a notification from the state that they are offering from the office of the Inspector General, free, one person from each community can go for the procurement training, which is a 3-day, well, it's 3 sessions, and each one is a couple weeks. It's about $1,800 value. I hopped on right away. Jesse is going to go to that and it will be free. We should be accepted with no problem.
Oh, perfect.
So it will be, that's something that we really need to make sure that, especially now that he's getting involved with it. As far as our projects, everything is pretty much on schedule. They're doing 4th Avenue is almost done, and then they will be getting on to Standish probably in about September, I think. So they're moving along with getting the water mains fixed on that. Those are big things for there. The town common improvement, I know there have been comments about the traffic flow. We now have the way that the yield sign is set up is the way the state law is mandating it. So people have to pay attention to it.
You're going south on South Main.
Yeah.
Used to drive straight across at Town Pizza. Now there's a yield sign there.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, we had it the wrong way all these years and people were used to it. So we're trying to get everyone to pay attention to that. A heads up that they are going to start doing several different streets that will be scattered throughout town. It's called, it's actually called chip sealing. They call it now by a different name. This chip sealing is what caused a lot of angst last year. So just as a heads up that we will be running into that. And they don't have the list of where the streets will be yet, but I will see if we can get that. What it does is it grinds down the streets and it just makes a big mess.
Yeah.
But I mean, the streets are fantastic after, but it's a mess, so just as
Yeah.
an FYI. And that's it for me.
Question and a comment, either to Tim or Beth, what's the status of the poles on South Main? It's the utility that's holding us up from finishing.
I haven't heard any status on it. I did see, a crew out there last week, switching over the communication lines.
Seems that they've done from Vendetti to the middle school, but they haven't done from the middle school to the center of
They're
town.
just slow. I mean, I think you know the history behind that. They are tough. They must just send a crew when they have a crew. I did see them working on it last week. I was kind of surprised, to be honest.
I mean, the urgency is obviously we don't want to tie up paving when the school
Yeah.
starts and the buses are rolling.
Yeah, I know, and it's probably what's gonna happen. They'll probably be doing it at the same time, but we don't have any control over that at all. We can't even put influence on Verizon. They don't respond.
Yeah.
Apparently the DOT, when projects are done, if the utilities meet the deadline that are given, the utilities get, I think it's 40% reimbursement.
Yeah, something like
And when
that.
they miss the deadline, they say, screw it, we can take another year. So if they're not gonna get reimbursed, there's no heat to the fire. So, the other thing is when the reverse 911 went out,
Yeah.
the town administrator, I went to the website and it struck me that we still had stuff for the 300th on there. So I had talked to Karen about some cleanup and she was going to be on that the next week or two to clean up the obvious
Yep.
needs.
Can I ask a question, just from the board? So we did talk about this before, but when you just mentioned, the message board, maybe a possible message board for the Domino's property. We did talk about, that piece is ready to do something with, and we'd like to, I'd like to get something going. Dennis and I had talked about it, when the building was completed, that to maybe put some people together, maybe a small group to, maybe come up with a design, some kind of a little landscaping thing and maybe incorporate a sign in it, because I think what you're saying is a really good idea. People stop at the light and that's a perfect spot for a message board to get our messages out.
Yeah, I would even go so far as to say that if you had two message boards and they were shaped like an arrow with
Yeah.
the same message going both ways.
Some kind of a design.
The cycling at the middle school is such that you don't get through the intersection and able to read it because of the way it's situated.
And I think, with the light there, people will stop there, but, it's some kind of a little landscape design, maybe some couple of benches or something. It's a big enough spot where, hey, that's our downtown and we're getting everything looking really good. I think,
Unless there's objection, do you mind taking the lead on that, but
I don't.
including the historical commission, because they wanted to do something relative to their location, but my personal opinion is, nice as the historical building is, it's there.
Yeah.
And they have their hours. I think the focus needs to be on community notifications as opposed to, maybe something reminding people of.
I did have a conversation,
that's all.
I did have a conversation with Bernadette.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that, and she's definitely interested. I'd like to go to a couple of departments and see if somebody would like to, from each, maybe, a couple of people, maybe someone from the library, the senior center, and whoever else wants to get on it and maybe come up with some ideas, just to get some maybe community input. And we don't want to block the museum. They just put a sign up, on there, and so we want to keep that visible, but to get messages out and to have it just complete the campus looking good, I think is just a good idea.
One of the things that was brought up that, they had the 300th park out there. And they were disappointed that we had our 300th park and then road construction came through.
Yeah.
So I think this would make them feel better seeing us bring that back again. So I think that'd be a good idea.
Can we put a placeholder, would you suggest a placeholder in fall town meeting to purchase a signboard? And maybe find something pretty quick.
Yeah,
Would that be at Capitol?
Capital.
it'll be capital, yeah.
It could be capital coming from the select board. Yeah, yeah.
Joe Park in Medway, they put up a really nice sign on the front of Joe Park. That whole area is beautiful. I was gonna bring it up.
I've seen it.
But that sign is really well done. It fits in with the landscape and you can get.
I can take some photos of it.
But there's a lot, but that would look really nice there.
What doesn't work is having to manually do.
Yeah. exactly.
We'll be going over there this week to Choke Park, so I can have.
Yeah,
pictures
take some photos of it.
Yeah.
Recently, someone drove over the island too. I don't know if you guys are
Yeah.
aware of that. They, you know, the small island right out front, across from the old Eldridge house, right immediately in front of it. A car went, or a truck went over the island, pushed that's a
Monument.
memorial, that's a
Yeah,
small.
it's
that's
a memorial, yeah.
And knocked over the flagpole. They pushed the monument up against the sign and just drove over it and kept going. I don't know if anyone stopped. Yeah.
The Granite Memorial, they pushed the thing, they came barreling through.
Yeah,
The
they
only
come
thing we
over the
could
curb.
figure out was they were coming down,
And didn't
Main
make the
Street,
turn. They
and-
went straight.
yep, and that was the only
Straight
way.
over both berms, drove over that, pushed the monument as far as they could. They must have backed up, knocked the flagpole down with the
light.
solar light on it and drove away.
And then what was that thing that you were looking at that they had knocked that was next to it? It was, because you were saying. it
Oh, yeah, no,
pulled
that
out.
footing.
Yeah.
They tore the footing right out of the ground. It was an 8-inch footing
There are no cameras around
and it
and
didn't even stop, no.
May I, Mr. Chair? So I couldn't agree more. The first weekend that after the painting was done, I was coming in from Mendon into the center. And there's a right hand turn, there's a center, the arrow goes straight like it's facing the house.
Yeah.
And then there's right, and I was in the left-hand lane, gonna go right 140 Mechanic Street. What happens is everybody on the right-hand lane, they'll come out right, but then they'll drift over to Mechanic Street. And I literally saw a F-250 almost hit this person's middle.
It's 2 lanes at that.
Well, and so I called Jesse up immediately, and he goes, well, let me go figure it out, and he went back and he called me within 15 minutes, he goes, you're absolutely right, this is just dangerous. So they were gonna put some signs up, which they've done, they put a
Usually they
little
can
more
put the
thing on
dotted
the road.
lines to show that you don't cross over.
I called him back, I said, it's great, but it's not working. You need to put either dotted lines like they did up there 495 and Mass Pike, or you need to put those little yellow things that stick in the ground. Not a permanent solution, but at least a temporary solution to get people used to the traffic pattern, because you've been going through there for a long, long time. And now there's kind of a new traffic pattern and it's not working because they're not looking down at the road. The sign's only this big, they're not seeing the sign. So there's gonna be a lot of trouble there. I know there already has been.
He is working on
I
it.
know he is.
Because he and I were out looking at it. And one of the things that they saw was what John's talking about with the arrow goes straight.
Mm.
We had talked about it and he had mentioned it to DOT and they're like, well, yeah, that's the way we planned. But the problem is to get rid of that straight arrow, you have to grind the road down. Well, because of the new paint or the new, what they use, yeah. So you would have to grind the road down that we just did to get rid of that. So we are working on it.
So one last question before we adjourn, I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking like, no, I was just like, Mass DOT, man, what in the heck?
Should we not put a message board up?
Yeah, really.
That right turn over Center and South Main sidewalks going in there in the timetable, because it seemed odd that they ground the road
Oh, yeah.
prematurely, and then now they're coming back to do work.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Neither.
Let me see, center. I've got the South Main
The
chip
light.
project.
Light is, yeah.
They're working on the sidewalks. Yes, they're supposed to be working on the sidewalks.
Because it looks like there's a question as to whether the sidewalks are gonna connect to Harmony.
The Harmony.
Because right now it looks like it stops short two houses and you're gonna have to cross the street.
Is it supposed to go to Harmony? Was that the plan?
I don't know, but it seems odd that you.
You wouldn't,
leave
yeah.
One house without a sidewalk and not connect.
All right, let me check.
Do we know when those lights are gonna be active? Is there a deadline for that? Or does something trigger the active, getting those lights active?
Well, I know that there is for the ones down by Curtis.
Right.
So I imagine that there is for this also. They probably have to wait until they have everything completed. I don't know if they'll cycle it through with doing the flashing to start out with, but I can find out.
Anything else tonight?
No.
Have we satisfied our agenda? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moves.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for attending and tuning in.